All right, let's dive in. Today we are tackling what might be the Bible's toughest book. I'm talking, of course, about Leviticus. But what if I told you that hidden inside all those complex laws is a key to unlocking some of the most profound ideas about love and relationships in all of human history? Stick with me.
Okay, let's be real. For so many people, Leviticus is like the Mount Everest of Bible reading plans. It's where good intentions just fizzle out, right? I mean, it's just jam-packed with these super detailed rituals, sacrifices, and all these rules that can feel so ancient, so totally disconnected from anything we're dealing with today.
And hey, if you've ever felt that way, you are absolutely not alone. It can feel so dense, so irrelevant. But here's what we're going to do today. We're going to treat it like a mystery, like an ancient code that, believe it or not, we can actually crack together. You know, most people hit a wall with this book for a few really common reasons. They open it up and just see this dense book of rules that seems like it's only for ancient priests. And then there are all these rituals that, they're confusing, they seem totally outdated. So yeah, it's pretty easy to see why so many of us just decide to, skip ahead. But here's where it gets interesting. The very first clue to cracking this code, it's hidden in plain sight. It's in the book's name. Because the name we call it, Leviticus, that's not its original name. And once you know the real name, well, it changes everything. Look at this. The difference is just huge. Our name, Leviticus, it comes from the Greek word luitikon, which basically just means stuff about the Levites. It sounds like a technical manual, right? But the original Hebrew name, it's vayakra, and that means, and he called. See the difference? One sounds like a rule book, the other sounds like an invitation. So think about that. The entire book doesn't kick off with a thou shalt not. It starts with a call. Vayikra tells us from the very first word that this whole thing isn't primarily about rules. It's about God initiating a relationship. It's about God calling people to come close. Okay. So if it's all about a relationship, then what is the deal with all the super complicated and, let's be honest, kind of bloody rituals? This is usually the next big hurdle for anyone trying to read this, right? Well, it turns out these rituals weren't just a bunch of random hoops God wanted people to jump through. Think of them more like a physical language. This was a time before everyone could read, right? So these actions were designed to teach something absolutely vital. They were a visceral way to show that approaching a holy God is a really, really serious thing, and that our brokenness, our sin, it has a real tangible cost.
And this whole process was called atonement. Let's just walk through it real quick. So first, you've got the human who is unclean. Sin creates this barrier to God. Step 2, that person lays their hands on an animal, a substitute. And in that moment, the sin, the impurity is symbolically transferred. It's this powerful, physical way of saying, this animal is now taking my place. And finally, that substitute bears the cost. It pays the price that the person actually deserved. It's this incredibly vivid picture that humanity just can't pay this price on its own.
So this idea of substitution, it builds and builds for thousands of years, and then Jesus arrives. But here's the thing. When you first read what Jesus says, some of his teachings seem to make Leviticus completely obsolete, like he's just tossing it out. Take this quote for example. Jesus says it's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you, but what comes out of it. Now, if you've read Leviticus, you know it has page after page of super detailed laws about clean and unclean foods. So it really sounds like Jesus is just wiping all of that away with one sentence. What is going on here? Is he just canceling the whole thing? Well, actually no. It's more complex than that. Jesus wasn't canceling Leviticus. He was showing everyone what it was really pointing to all along. He was basically saying, you guys are so focused on the external stuff, the food, that you're missing the point. He was shifting the focus from the external action to the internal source, the heart. He was revealing that the whole goal of those laws was to point to a deeper need for internal purity, something that just following a bunch of food rules could never, ever achieve. In fact, Jesus makes it really clear that he doesn't see Leviticus as some outdated rule book at all. He sees it as a deep source of truth. And he proves it. He proves it by pulling the single most important key to understanding the entire book right from its pages. Now, you probably know this one. When a guy asks Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? Jesus gives him two answers. The first is to love God with everything you've got. And the second one, well, it's just as famous. It's this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, think about that. That single idea has shaped so much of our moral and ethical thinking for thousands of years. It's the bedrock of compassion, of empathy, of justice. But where did he get it? Did Jesus just invent this incredible, world-changing concept right there on the spot? The answer to that question is pretty much the entire reason we're doing this explainer. And it might just change the way you see this part of the Bible forever. You guessed it, the second greatest commandment, the absolute ethical core of Jesus' teaching. It comes directly from the middle of Leviticus, the book everyone skips. Leviticus 19, verse 18. So, see, this wasn't Jesus inventing some brand new idea. This was Jesus showing everyone what was there all along, that the true heart of Leviticus was never just about rituals and sacrifices. It was about a kind of holiness that results in real, tangible love for other people.
So where does that leave us, trying to read this ancient book today in 2026? Well, knowing this one verse, it completely reframes how we should approach the whole thing.
Think of it like this. If we try to read Leviticus as just a literal rulebook, we're going to totally misunderstand its heart. If we skip it entirely, we miss out on seeing the incredible depth of God's grace. But if we read it as a map for a relationship, a guide to what it means to live near a holy God, then we actually start to understand God's own heart. So at the end of the day, Leviticus isn't a checklist of rules for us to follow. It's much more like a mirror. It's meant to show us the seriousness of our own brokenness and our total inability to fix it ourselves. And when you see that, suddenly the sacrifice of Jesus isn't just some historical event. It becomes the profound cosmic solution to the very problem that Leviticus illustrates so powerfully. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty challenging thought, doesn't it? Jesus made it crystal clear that the whole point of all that holiness described in Leviticus was meant to lead to love. So I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is this: if our own version of holiness doesn't actually lead to more love, more compassion, and more justice for the people around us, is it truly the kind of holiness God was calling us to in the first place?